Any chance we get to take a look at the creative process and peel back that curtain and glimpse behind it and see how a work of art gets created is really glorious. And that's exactly what we're going to do tonight. We're going to take a look at one of the most influential songs in popular music, Strawberry Fields Forever. We're going to take a trip, that's safe for the kids, back to 1966 to take a look at how John Lennon created the song, what inspired him, and how it got produced in the studio. And it's a really fascinating story. If you don't know it, you're going to have a lot of fun. And even if you do know it, you're going to hear a lot of cool things along the way. When you talk about a great album, you can't really separate the circumstances in which it was created from the music. We're going to be talking a little bit about both tonight. And hopefully you'll see that this mixture of the fun that they had while making the album and also the tension in which it was made created this masterpiece.
He's probably the only person to have sold out Carnegie Hall and been a finalist for the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award as well. He's an extremely unusual guy with very, very sort of wide talents.
So that's definitive proof that Paul McCartney could write a lousy song.
And he's the creator of this whole Deconstructing the Beatles series, which is this series of very sort of unique multimedia presentations about the production techniques and songwriting of the Beatles.
Now, by the time Lady Madonna was released, the Beatles were on their way to Rishikesh. Rishikesh is an area in India which means land of the sages. Now, there was a lot of revolution going on in the world in 1968. There was the Prague Spring, where Russia came in to Czechoslovakia. There were the protests at the '68 Democratic Convention in Chicago. The Vietnam War was raging. There was the assassination of Martin Luther King, and during the White Album, the assassination of Robert Kennedy. And this was just the tip of the iceberg as far as the world really changing.
Right, so I was thinking of the sound as being something which
a little bit of brass band.
We bring in a second tape recorder and a fresh piece of tape. We press play on the first recorder and record on the second, and we actually mix some tracks together. So for example, the drums and bass get combined on track 1, the guitar and vocal get combined on track 4, and now we have 2 empty tracks on this new piece of tape to add some percussion and background harmony and what have you. So if you read about Blackbird in most Beatles books, they'll tell you that it's Paul on guitar with a metronome. But if it's a metronome, it is the worst metronome ever built because it can't keep time. Well, as you can see here, it's actually not a metronome. It's him tapping his foot, which Jeff Emmerich mic'd with its own microphone. So if you look at take 4, you see there's one track of just Paul's foot, one of the guitar, and then a vocal and a room microphone to get some ambiance from the room, later replaced with a second vocal.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night.
The third article was one which had to appeal to John's sense of humor. It was an article in the paper that said they found 4,000 holes in Blackburn, Lancashire, and that means there must be 1/26 of a hole per person, and therefore there are probably about 2 million holes in Britain. So, of course, John turned this into the lyric, now they know how many holes it takes to fill the Albert Hall. Well, Humphrey Lyttelton had had a single microphone over the piano, and he had the drummer play brushes. So that's what Paul decided to do for Lady Madonna. So when they got to recording Lady Madonna, we have an early take 3, recorded in February of '68, with Ringo on brushes and Paul on piano and vocal. And I'd like to play a little bit of that for you now. What I'm going to do for you is do something very special. I'm going to play for you an 8-track version of Dear Prudence with some isolated tracks. I have for you the 4-track recording, and I'm going to be able to isolate these tracks so we can hear some of the different parts in the song. And that is the world, and that is what the Beatles are about. Created by, creating for their age. And I would add for our age as well. Thank you. Thank you.